huge part of the government, attended a conference on resettling Gaza after the war, and that included 11 government ministers and a total of 27 coalition members. Thousands of Israelis attended the event, where speakers pledged to rebuild settlements abandoned in 2005. The policy has been publicly rejected by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and could pose a critical challenge not just to Israel's government, but also to relations with Western powers.
Part of correcting the mistake, of the recognition of the mistaken conception that brought upon us the 7th of October and brought upon us the deportation, is to return back home to Gush Katif and North Samaria. Today, everyone already understands that fleeing brings war, and that if you don't want another 7th of October, you have to return home to control the territory.
We are settling our land from width to length, controlling it and fighting terror always, and bringing, with God's help, security to all of Israel. You know what the answer is. Without settlement, there is no security.
And we are joined now on the line by Danielle Weiss, head of the Nachala Settlement movement. Thank you very much for being with us, Daniela. There seems to be a lack of consensus with the government, with a very large portion seeming at this rally to support endeavors to resettle Gaza, but the Prime Minister himself saying this is not helpful at this time and this is not happening, could pose a threat to bring down the entire government.
I will say that, to be more precise, Prime Minister Netanyahu did leave the door a little open for us as activists, for us as a movement that encouraging resettling Jewish communities in Gaza, to continue with our effort. And as you are questioning me here, while I sit at my home on the mountains of Samaria, I remember the time when we came here to the Black Mountains of Shomron of Samaria, and people said, but the government is not with you, and there is no public support, and so on and so forth. And time went by, and I'm here with my family. We came with 2 babies. Now I have 7 great-grandchildren. They all live in the communities on the mountains. So people who said to me, it's an impossible thing, the government doesn't want it, and I want you to know that the person who signed the return to Samaria was Shimon Peres when Rabin was prime minister. So I believe that a similar process, it's similar, might be a bit different, but a similar process. You show here the map. This is the map that I drew with my own hand. The graphics I didn't do. And this is the vision. And this vision will take place if we insist. And how do we do it? First, we are a small circle. Yesterday, we were 5,000 people. The next day, we will be 10,000, and it will grow and grow. And then we will gather at the Rabin Square in Tel Aviv, and 100,000 people will say.
But Daniela,
yes,
I have to jump in here because there are some very significant practical differences in the West Bank versus Gaza. The big one being that Israel withdrew from Gaza in 2005 because the security challenge was not worth it. It was simply too dangerous. And in almost 20 years since then, it has only gotten more dangerous, with Hamas's infrastructure being built up, networks of terrorists, and more weapons than ever before in the Gaza Strip.
So this is exactly what I want to prevent. And Israel did not withdraw from Gaza because the security difficulties, because of the Oslo Accords, and because the IDF withdrew and left us in the settlements without the IDF, and with the declaration of Ariel Sharon that he's going to take out the communities which made the security situation worse. Then things got worse and worse. But if we declare clearly we came to stay, and this is the real answer, that all through the history of Zionism, security and settlement went hand in hand. It was in the time of the left-wing parties, it was in the time of the right-wing parties, and here in Samaria and Judea is the best example.
But
Worked
it's
beautifully.
not just a matter of the internal politics or even the practical considerations of security. This sort of movement could put Israel directly on a collision course with the United States, whose backing Israel really needs right now as the region is destabilizing. Even if you're going to ignore the security ones, is this really the best time for it?
It's interesting that you say this exactly in a time where things became so clear. After the 7th of October, it wasn't a battlefield. It was a massacre with a declaration. The Hamas terrorists said we came to annihilate the state of Israel. It wasn't a minor secondary battlefield. It was a declaration of annihilation. And they did their best to show that they mean it. And they reiterate the same philosophy time and again.
Then why would you put yourself in the middle of them?
In the middle of whom?
The Hamas members, the people that commit the October 7th massacres. It only creates more opportunity to do the same thing if you're going to put people back in the Gaza Strip.
I hope you listen to what people of Sderot that were evacuated from their homes as a result of the massacre. They want to see the Mediterranean. They want to see the blue strip. They don't want Hamas there. Hamas will not be there. The Arabs will not remain in Gaza. They lost the right to stay where they were up to October 7. They will go to Egypt, to Turkey, to Scotland, to Canada, to New Zealand, wherever. They will not stay where they threaten to annihilate the state of Israel. Things have changed. Sometimes when there is a clash, you overcome and continue. Okay, there was a clash, there was some domestic problem, there was some border problem, and you continue. No more. And I have to people, and I'm not saying it to you, you are just interviewing me. I'm saying to people who question in general, I suggest every night before you go to bed, watch the clip of the massacre. Maybe it will refresh your memories and you will understand why the people of Gaza lost the right.
Unfortunately, Daniela, as much as we talk about this, October 7th is not over yet. There's still 136 hostages being held by the enemy in Gaza as we speak. And many people feel that this sort of discordance and this sort of unable to agree on things we're seeing in Israel is only going to put them under a greater threat, to put more pressure on the enemy to harm them.
I've learned the language of my enemies. The language of my enemies is different from the language of civilized human beings. If we want the hostages back, and we want because I relate to them as if my own children, God forbid, are there, then stop all humanitarian aid of all sorts. In 3 days, all the hostages are back in Israel. Stop all help. This is a language that is clear. And if people die on the other side, remember, always my child comes before the child of the enemy.
Unfortunately, it's not quite that easy when you have international pressure breathing down everyone's throat. Daniela, thank you very much for explaining the position, but it's going to be a very hard sell, not to mention all the practical considerations ahead. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.